I mean, you want to identify yourself, whatever's going to relate with them, right? So I'm a tenant, you know, if I was knocking on doors in East Van, I'd say, well, I'm a tenant in the West End, and this is what I care about, right? So if you're in the building, I'm your neighbor, you know, we see each other all the time, but I'm here to talk to you about. So once you find out the problems, what do you do with that?
Well, I think you have to arrange a meeting after that. You have to ask them specifically, would you be interested in meeting with a number of other tenants in the building if, you know, if it would be possible, let's go have coffee.
All right. So
You know?
the ask, right? Or in the farm workers, we call that the crunch. Can I count on you? And whatever it is, right? You know, can I count on you? I'm having a meeting at my apartment tomorrow at 6. Can I count on you to come join me? Right? I think it's great. I mean, it's the personal touch, because really when you sit down for an hour over coffee, you really get to know people a lot better, right?
Yeah, I just want to say it's very important to turn support into support. You know, a lot of people can say, oh, I support, you know, on whatever, but that means that really means I agree with you, but I'm not going to do anything about it.
So, you know, there'll be a various range of how much people would do that. If somebody's like, yeah, you know, did you know this guy's being evicted from your building? And they're like, yeah, maybe I'll come to the meeting. I might press them a little bit more. I'm like, look, you know, we have a situation of our neighbor who's being evicted. I think it's really important that you make the commitment to go. Right? Yeah.
When I went through my building, like after we got this notice that the landlord was selling the place, like I did it that night, just because I knew everyone would be up thinking about it. And I think what helped is also being informed about what I was speaking about. So like, fortunately, I'd gone to the first meeting of the tenants meeting, so I was like, look, this is what is happening. My understanding of like what goes down in this type of situation is like, they're going to try and make offers, and so also being informed, not just kind of like knocking on people's doors. That way you're giving them information. And yeah, the first ask that I did was like, can I have your contact information? It was like, who knows their neighbor's contact info? I like really didn't even know a lot of their neighbors. I've lived there for over 3 years, so.
What would you get? What contact information? You have their address.
I have their address. I know some people don't have email addresses, which I found amazing. Like, but I got their phone numbers, and to me that's just like symbolic that they want to be involved. Obviously, I know where to find them. I can slip a note under their door, but yeah, just gather that information. Ask to share it amongst each other.
So you
that
can
way, if someone dips out, then someone else is around.
So you can get their phone number, you can get their email, you can get their Facebook, you can get their WhatsApp. I don't know what, you know, you can figure out, you know, in your building what's the best way. Now, what if you didn't, they asked you a question about your rights and you didn't know?
We'll figure it out together.
We'll figure it out. Yeah, you don't have to make anything up.
I know someone who does know, so.
Yeah, I'll call Wendy. No, but I just say that because sometimes we get nervous about knocking on doors because we have to have all the information, you know. But it's really important to like, look, I'm not, you know, I care about this. I'm learning. I'll get back to you with the information. Yeah.
I have a question, because last time that was a recommendation to do that, so I'm still in the middle of it, but I've talked to a couple people, and because my landlord has harassed me like relentlessly for almost 6 months now, a lot of people don't want to get involved because they don't want the same thing going on for them. Like, when they tell me that, like, what would be a good kind of comeback to that? Like, we have to just group together, because I'm willing to do this to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else.
Let me come back to that in a moment. I'm just going to give a basic outline of kind of in the union, how it includes most of this stuff, but there's 2 areas, and I'm going to come back to your question, because I think that's a really good one, because a lot of what we're dealing with is fear, right? And in our union, it's fear of getting fired. You stand up, you see this person, make a U-turn. You know, how to address the fear, right? And so let me just kind of an outline of, so people said introductions, questions, and we could, and then agitation. You know what I mean by agitation?
No, what's bugging?
Huh?
What do you mean, what's bugging you?
Yeah. So what's bugging you, like to kind of, what's the word, like light the fire. How much longer do you want to live with bed bugs? Right? How much longer can we be harassed by our landlord? Right? Questions that agitate, questions that get people fired up, because when we're fired up, what do?
Something.
Yeah, something, right? Something, and then later we're going to tell them where we're going to put that energy, but when we're fired up, we're going to do something, right? And then the other part that I think that I would add to what people said is just the vision, right? And so you talk to, so this is who I am, I'm not wearing sunglasses, I'm your neighbor, how you doing? I'm pissed off because of this, I really want to make a change here. How are things going with you? Or are you having problems in your building? So you got some questions, and we could spend a long time on any of these pieces, but just I want to give an overview. And then agitation, right? Questions to kind of get people fired up. And then what do you think the vision is? So you got me agitated, you got me fired up, I'm really mad about my bed bugs. What's your plan?
Bed bug policy.
Uh-huh.
I think I tend to do that I try to inspire people to be part of something. We have this big group, we're trying to, you need to, if we can all band together, we can fight our landlords. We've done it in 2 other places, we're interested to do it here. I think you have to kind of tease people into the bigger picture, and I tend to do that. I try to do that, because sometimes people can't see the forest through the trees and they just see their own situation, but they need to know that there's a bigger picture of what's going on.
Well, that relates to what she's saying. I'm going to close with just that, on the obstacles. If each of these pieces, we could spend a long time talking about what would our vision be, what are our agitation questions, how we introduce ourselves. But, you could all do that. You could just think, what would I say? What's my vision? But they're agitated. Here's the plan. Join us. Contact information, come to the next meeting, whatever the thing is that you're asking them to do. Now, then you have, but I'm afraid, right? But I don't want to get targeted, right? Yeah. And so we'll go back into, agitate, but aren't you, but how much longer do you want to live like this? How are your kids going to grow up with this happening, right? So you can go back to, envision, and yes, we got to stick together. That's how we win, right? Is by sticking together and not letting one person be harassed. So I'm going to wrap up, but you have one last question.
I was just going to say that I think, for me at least, at the Belvedere, when we were talking to Wendy for the very first time, and I think a lot of us were pretty afraid of what was going to happen in the building, but I just found that when you guys said, well, let them do that. Let them, screw themselves over, by making these mistakes. The more that they make these mistakes, the stronger your case becomes. I just thought that's also a potential way to combat people's fear, is to talk about how, at least at a legal level, and we obviously need to improve those laws to protect people from fear and intimidation, but landlords technically shouldn't be able to be doing those things, and that's cause for fighting back.
Yeah, documenting that is so important. That's how we are in Supreme Court with Jack's case right now. That's a precedent-setting, Canadian's precedent-setting case. Tenants might win the right to sue slumlords in Supreme Court if Jack wins. And we just went to appeal court for that, and 3 appeal court judges are making a decision right now. But the foundation of that was we had to prove that tenants could not do their due diligence in letting the landlord know about the problems in the building. And once we were able to prove that he couldn't make complaints and all the tenants couldn't do this successfully because they would get intimidated and backlashed, that was a killer. So we did that at the RTB level, and now we're in Supreme Court, potentially everybody can be able to sue their landlords right directly in a class action lawsuit.
And if you know that, and you know somebody's got your back.
Yes, and that's the other thing, Jack and I mean, we're in constant contact 24/7, so, I mean, at some point, some of the organizers here might want to provide that kind of support to one key tenant who's going to pave the way, but they're going to need like 24/7 support, and which we can, you know, I've done it for people, and it's not super hard to do. They just need to know that somebody's there for them when they are facing the questions in the middle of the night about what to do next, that this is happening. So yeah, I think it's possible to defend, kind of give the wraparound support to one person in a building to make, and that person can kind of pave the way for everybody else in the building.
So, great input, a lot of experience here, learn from each other. You were getting at, you know, kind of like get them riled up again. The only other thing I'd say on the fear is the connecting with your story. You started this meeting with everybody telling their story, right? And so that's, you know, if you have, you know, if somebody's afraid and you're like, look, I've been there, you know, and let me tell you how I felt and how I dealt with it, right? And I'm here to back you up, and we have an organization that's here to back you up. So I want to finish with what we finished all of our meetings with in the Tenants Union, which is the union clap. You guys know the union clap? Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, it starts really slow and then goes fast, building momentum and shows that we're, you know, all united together. So